What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Nick with Leverage Media, and welcome to another episode of Path to $1 Million podcast. I am here with my new friend, Dr. Shawn Powers. How are you?
Fabulous.
Nice to meet
you.
So give people a little bit of background on who you are, what you do, why they should listen to you.
I'm Dr. Shawn Powers, and I graduated in 1982. So maybe I'm in chiropractic longer than some of the audience is old, right?
Right.
I would say I love it more today than I did when I started, right? And I love it because it's the best time in the world to be a chiropractor.
I agree.
The evidence for what we do, the ability, with social media to get our message out without having to spend a fortune, it's amazing. So I really teach chiropractors how to impact their community with their message and their care. And I do that with powerful systems and simple solutions so that they can be wildly successful in alignment with what they want in their life. Because you and I know there's all sorts of desires out there about the style or the type of practice, etc. So I'm very specific in terms of love your life and your practice.
That's
not, that I have a great practice and the rest of my life is, disintegrating.
Right. Or, I'm in agreement that your life comes first, and then you should build, that practice around that so that it supports your life, not takes away from it. So that's great. So I told you a little bit about the structure of the podcast, and you were in practice up until about 3 years ago, correct? And in Austin, Texas, we were just sharing our love for the hill country, except in the summertime. So when you practiced, you said you were practicing somebody else's office there at the end, and you got into coaching around 2007?
Actually, I started coaching in 1999.
Okay.
𝗧𝘂𝗿𝗍 brought me to Parker. I hired him as a coach, and if you don't know who 𝗧𝘂𝗍𝗍 is...
What a coach,
he's,
right?
Well, here's the story.
Yeah.
So I paid him $2,500 to come in to do an in-office in my office. He observed, he looked at my stats, he watched me, do what I do, and then he said, hey, you know what? You don't need me.
Yeah.
I need you. I need you to come out and teach and be on the Parker program and show people what it is that you do, and you do it so well. And I was like, I paid $2,500 for that? But it changed my life.
That's
right?
Great.
So it gave me, I didn't even know I wanted to teach outside of teaching in my practice. I didn't know that I had the ability to impact and influence other people.
Yeah.
So, that's how I got started.
That's great. Anytime 𝗧𝘂𝗍𝗿 is telling you that you should be doing something, you should be listening, right?
Right.
How crazy is it that you could pay $2,500 to have 𝗧𝘂𝗍𝗿? I mean, now that you're thinking about how crazy that is, to have, imagine if you could today have him come into your practice and be like, "What do you think, Jim?"
Right.
That would be amazing.
Well, and I didn't really know who he was, but he had put an advertisement in one of the journals that said, "I'll come into your office and work with you." And I thought, because I go to different seminars, and you know how it is. You're always like, well, that's not really the way my practice is.
Sure.
Or there was always the but, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, he'll come and see who I am, how I do what I do, right? And I didn't know that he was a straight chiropractor or anti-therapy or anything like that. And at the time, I was doing therapy.
Yeah.
And friends of mine were like, "You're crazy. He's going to make you throw your therapy out." And I said, I am open. I just want to know what I can do to be better. I had a beautiful practice. Yeah. Obviously, I had a beautiful practice because he thought I should go and teach people. But I've always been a person who wants more. That's great.
So let's kind of start going through the stages. So what would you say your kind of avatar is for where they are in practice in terms of what stage they're at or what level of collections maybe they are? Is just anything that
for people I like to work with to coach. For me, it's anybody who has a gap between where they are and where they want to be. Yeah. So it could be a doctor who's been in practice for years, 30 years, and making big dollars, but isn't happy, right? Or doesn't feel fulfilled, right? It could be a new doctor who's just like, oh my God, what do I do now? I have all this debt, and I need to figure out my systems. I need to increase my confidence, my certainty, or my courage, right? To speak what I need to speak and do what I need to do. So for me, I've never been that, like, I only do one technique, or I don't like the cookie cutter. I mean, we're all chiropractors, so we're kind of rebels, renegades, and revolutionaries anyway, right? So, just somebody who has a desire that wants more and knows that they can do it, and they're willing to work for it.
That's great. So let's start with that first stage. So $0 to $250,000 in collections, gross collections for the year. When somebody's starting out from scratch, or maybe they just bought a practice that doesn't have really much going on, so it's like they're pretty much starting from scratch. What's your recommendation to those doctors that need to accelerate fast through that first stage?
I think the most important thing is you have to have powerful systems, right? And you have to have those systems so that they are in line with beyond, like really, if you want to get to 250 and you're at 0, you practice at the 250 level, right? You have your systems, you have your hours, you have team on deck, like professional teams. They have, somebody, on deck ready if the player doesn't work out, right? So I think that you have to have a mindset, right? So our identity and who we are at this moment in our life will not be the same identity that we'll have at 250, right? So one of the things that chiropractors always want to work towards is I need more marketing. But I can take somebody and give you the same exact strategies, and one person will produce 100 new people, and the other will produce 0.
Right.
So it's not always about the strategy as it is who you are, what you're prepared for, and do you have the capacity mentally, physically, spiritually, to adjust at a 250,000, or let's just say 250 practice members in a day or a week or whatever. It's a whole lot different than 10. Right. And so I think it's all about who you are and the preparation and all of the systems and the strategies, the mindset to get there. I've
done so many interviews this weekend that I can't remember. I can't remember who said this, but they were. God, who was? Anyway, I'll think of it in a second. They were basically saying that, at this stage, you hear a lot about like get out there, like meet a lot of people, which I think is absolutely true. But if you just start dumping a lot of people into broken systems, you're just going to be spinning your wheels for a long time until, guess what, you figure out the systems and then you start to grow. But if you can set, like what you're talking about, if you can set those systems from the beginning, or even maybe there's a lot of coaching programs and consulting groups that are in the schools now that these kids are learning business strategies, day one, day twos, the right way from before they ever start out in practice, and they hit the ground running. And it's like I've talked to people that have hit. I talked to this one guy that hit 1,200 in 2.5 years. I'm like, I'd never heard of that when I was in school. And so I think you're absolutely right to like have that foundation in place before you start building the house.
And I think don't focus on numbers. Focus on value.
Right.
Focus on service. Focus on relevancy. But you must have fair and profitable fees, right? Like in line with your service, your value, and your relevancy. And the other thing is that the more you're invested, or the more you know people, the more people who know, like, and trust you, the more people will do business or send business to you.
Right.
But look at what we're doing right now. We're sharing information, and people around the world will hear it, right? So I would say one of the things that probably you and I didn't know about or didn't even think about is that not only are you a chiropractor, but you either have to hire an agency like yours, or you have to consider yourself a content creator. Right? So you need to be doing videos, and you need to be writing articles, and you need to be responding to the anti-chiropractic stuff in the media or in your community. So you have to be so much more than a phenomenal doctor, right? You have to be somebody who has the ability to defend and explain, articulate the value and the relevancy of chiropractic.
Right. And you have to use the way that people communicate in the 21st century is, online, is on these platforms. And you have to be able to communicate in a way to where you get, and that's what we're all about at Leverage is like helping chiropractors create content so that they can spread whatever their message is.
Right.
Because your office is different than my office, is different than that office over there. Right. And so it has to be unique to your voice, and it has to be unique to your community, because your community has different challenges that my community does. And so I always say that, you have to, not me, but Gary Vaynerchuk always says, you have to function more as a media company than as just a business. Like, at some point in the future, like, all of us will have videographers. All of us will have someone on staff that just does like what an agency does, because it's that important. Because it's the way that people expect to be communicated with. And if you're not doing that, somebody else will be, if they aren't already, and you'll start to see your market share start to diminish.
And even until you have that, realize an iPhone, that's
what we're recording this on right
now. You can do phenomenal things without going high tech, right? Because people want to hear the message. They want to know that you are real, and that they can trust you, and that you have something that is attractive to them, right? So again, I think a lot of times, if you're going to go from 0 to 250, you cannot make excuses. And you can't say all the things I don't have. Use what you have. Everything that you have, you can use, and you can pop it. You could go to 1,200 if that's your desire, but you must role play it. You must see it, like go to other offices, see what it's happening. Take other ideas from any other company that's doing well, not just in chiropractic, right? But it's all about your sense of urgency, your intensity, and your willingness to take the next step, right? And every day, you just set the counter back to 0, right? So what's my 3 most highly effective activities I can do today? What's my mindset today, right? And you just keep doing it. And you will get what you want, but you have to pay attention to what's not working, like you said, right? And then we have to, we don't want subluxations in our systems. We don't want subluxations in our marketing. Find out what's not working, make an adjustment, pivot, correct it, and test, right? Don't keep throwing time, money, and energy into stuff that's not producing the results.
That's right.
But like Gary Vee would tell you, you also have to be patient.
That's right.
Sometimes, but consistent, and measure that outcome.
Yeah. And I think when he talks about patience, he's just like, don't get so anxious for this end result. It's just be in it for as a chiropractor, when I talk about content marketing is a 10-year, 20-year, 30-year marketing strategy. It is not a 30-day marketing strategy, right? And so if you as a chiropractor, or almost every chiropractor I know, wherever they open their or buy their practice is where they're going to be for I'd say 80% plus are there forevermore, right? And if you're going to be there for a long time, you may want to become a part of the community, add value to the community. And the way that you do that is by teaching, is by content, by interviewing other experts like this. This is value to the chiropractic profession, that you and I get to have this conversation, because you have unique experiences, I have unique experiences, and the two of them together in this conversation, it's the only place you can find this conversation, right? They've heard you talk, they've heard me talk, but we haven't talked together before, right? And that's so powerful, and it's valuable to somebody out there, right? There might be somebody who, there's, what do they call that, a Venn diagram, where your circle and my circle overlap, and there's somebody in the middle there that's just man, this is what I've been waiting for, Shawn and Nick to really chop it up on the path to $1 million. And you've got to think that way for your own practice. And again, that's not a 30-day sprint. That's a marathon. That's an ultra marathon. You're going to be there for a long time.
And I've done a lot of marathons, and you know how you run them? One step at a time.
That's right. Yeah.
But what you just said, I think when you think about how do I contribute, right? Not how do I get.
That's right.
𝗵𝘃𝗰𝗁𝗁 said, giving and receiving is one continuous motion. And listen, I know what it's like. I had a lot of bills when I graduated. I already had a degree in nursing. And I went to my parents and I said, I don't want to be a nurse the rest of my life. I want to be a chiropractor. And I saw 16 people die in one double shift in a hospital in Chicago.
Yeah.
I'm like, I wanted to save lives, not watch them end, right? And they said, oh, we already paid for 1 degree. The next one is on your own, right? So I know what it's like to be struggling financially, but if you only focus on getting, it's contractive, right? You need to be expansive and say, how can I contribute to the people in front of me, to my community, to my family? And when you think like a contribution, collaboration, consistency, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of like what you and I just kind of went through. And if you just, listeners, if you just keep saying, how can I do these 3 C's? Or let's think of a 4C, like a diamond, right?
Right.
Sharp and beautiful and glorious, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, it will happen.
Content. There you go.
There you go.
All right. So on the next stage, they've created their systems. They've made it to that 250,000, marketing, or 20,000 in a month. And what's that next step going from 250 to 500? What's the thing that they get stuck on or they need to really focus on?
I think the right people in the right role. Like, team is always really important. Teams give us freedom.
Yeah.
But you go to a next level of team, right?
Yeah.
You go to a next level of outsourcing sometimes. And who you bring into your practice, the culture of your practice, right? So many times people waste an inordinate amount of money on bringing in associates that aren't coachable, aren't trainable, aren't fitting in your culture, or they have other ideas that are not congruent with you.
Yeah.
So I think that your foundation first, and then how you build on that foundation, right? So like you could have a gorgeous 3,500 square foot home, or you could have a mansion, right? And so it's like there's a whole lot of difference, right?
Yeah. What do you like when you say coachable and trainable? Do you think that's just like some people just aren't coachable or trainable, or do you think it's more like the situation? Like how could people, when they are hiring people, whether it's an associate or a staff member, how could they try to encourage the coachability and the trainability? Or do you think it's just like a gene that they have that they're not coachable or trainable?
I think it depends on the person's stage of life and their experiences in life, right? I personally probably at some point in my life wasn't as coachable as I could have been.
Yeah.
But I had to have some experiences and, things that didn't work out, maybe, like maybe knock me off my, platform a little bit to say, oh, right? I think some people are just naturally not entrepreneurial. And chiropractors, if you own your own practice, you're an entrepreneur. So you have to be...
I think they're business owners, though. I really like. I think there's a difference between like a business owner and an entrepreneur. Like I think that probably you and I are entrepreneurs. Like I think that we love like the business building side of it and coming up with a new idea. We're going to talk later about like your new training portal. Like entrepreneurs they're like trying to solve that problem that doesn't, like the solution doesn't exist, and they're trying to solve. I think business, like chiropractors, because there's no chiropractic hospital where you can go and just get a job, it's like if they don't want to be an associate, they have to just like own a business. But a lot of them would much rather not own a business, and they are not entrepreneurial. And I think that there's definitely a difference. And I think that if you're honest with yourself, just because you're not a natural born entrepreneur doesn't mean that you can't be a great business owner. But I think you have to be honest with yourself on which of the two you are. Because for me, I could never I don't think I could have ever been like a 60-year in practice doctor. I would have always like wanted something more or different or new. And so that was that entrepreneurial spirit, and luckily I recognized that early on. But if you're a business owner, and you just don't love that part of it, you've got to kind of surround yourself, I think, with people that can add those pieces in.
Great distinction. No, it's really a great distinction. And I think that clarity of when somebody says a word, are we on the same page about what entrepreneurship means versus business owner?
Yeah.
But here's what I think a lot of people do is they go into practice and they don't think of it like a business. It's like almost like their passion, they love it, it's their hobby. Yeah. And that's where they make mistakes that will prevent them from getting to $1 million, right?
Yeah.
How you run your overhead, do you know the cost of doing business, right? Like just the business strategies that will make you successful, right? And I think, I don't know, I can't even remember what that question was when we went off on that riff.
Anyway, it was a good riff. I liked it. So we were just talking about the 250 to 500. I was asking about the coachability, trainability thing with...
and here's how you can assess whoever you're going to hire. You know, first of all, you really have great interviewing skills, and don't be the only person who interviews, right? If there's more than one person in the practice, all the team should be interviewing, right? And they need to be coached on how to interview, right? And you want to know that... ask open-ended questions, because people will tell you all sorts of things that you might not have asked that question that will make it clear to you that they're a perfect fit or that would be a nightmare, right? Yeah,
and I also think that people, they're such liars in interviews that if you kind of give them the answer that you're looking for, they're going to tell you the answer that you're looking for. So you've got to have, I agree, have open-ended questions that are kind of set in, you ask the same thing. I use the same sheet for everybody, and it's when you use the consistent, it's just kind of like this, where you use a structure that it's you start to hear some of the commonalities between all the smartest people of they're saying this at this stage and that at that stage. It's the same with interviews. If somebody's really good at, if number 7 is a tough question and it is, but they really knock it out of the ballpark, maybe that tells you something versus somebody who can't even answer one. One of the things that we ask is something about what's your biggest weakness, but it's a cuter way of asking that. And literally there'll be people that just don't give an answer. They just give up. They're just I don't know. And I'm that's the last one that I need to, that's the last question. I go through the rest of them, but it's pretty quick, So.
I was so extreme sometimes in interviewing because I love to see a lot of people. I've always loved high volume. I've always had a family practice, and I move fast. I used to be a critical care nurse, and a millisecond is life or death, right? So I always approach my practice like that. And I feel like everybody who doesn't get chiropractic care, they're one step closer to death. And we know that, right? We know the value of chiropractic. So I used to have a long hallway, and I would say to people, I'd say, will you race me down the hallway? And they'd look at me like, are you kidding me? Or some people would go, yeah, let's go. They were my people. Right? Any hesitancy, and again, everybody has their ideal avatar, and I sometimes I don't like to use the word avatar. I like to use the humanistic people, right? I have my people, the people that I need. What is it that you want in your practice, or even if you're outsourcing, what media company are you going to hire? Are they, it's brilliant because you're a chiropractor, right? Most companies have no idea. We had a speaker this weekend. I don't know if you were in there, but she was so I know you guys love massage, or you do a lot of massage, right? And I was like, she doesn't know her audience. And the audience was just silent. And she's like, well, don't you? She was you could see, she was like, I messed up there, right? So I think you really have to, as you grow and you want to expand, you have to be absolutely clear about who you are, what you want to produce, who you work well with, and what you want from the people that you're working with or hiring or outsourcing to, right? When we have vagueness in our life, in our mission, in our relationships and our communication, it usually causes issues, right? So clarity is so vital in all of it.
I agree.
And you might think you want to do $1 million because somebody should that on you. You should do that, right? But you really don't.
Right.
And you won't. But you'll feel bad about yourself. So I think the other piece is really knowing deep inside of your own heart and soul, what do you want?
Right.
And the beauty is, tomorrow's another day. You could change your mind.
That's the thing. It's you just because you started out, because I do think that when we're in school or when we start, from scratch, it's that it just $1 million sounds right. Other people are doing it. That sounds great. And then you get to 40,000 and you're happy, and it's just you change your mind. You're I don't want to do that. right? Or you're like, you know what, I just want to practice part-time. I just want to, I want to do this or I want to do that. And then your life changes and you're like, I do want to build a big high-volume practice. And it's like, but it's okay to change your mind either way, whether it's to do something bigger or to do something smaller. Like, it doesn't matter. And like with this, it's not saying that everybody needs to be on a path to $1 million, but it's just like, it gives us a structure.
You can stop on wherever you want.
That's
There's
right.
rest stops along the way.
That's right.
But listen, here's what I really believe is the reality is that the beauty of chiropractic affords us to have a life and a lifestyle that's congruent for us at all times of our life, right? Yeah. So I work with a lot of women, and some of them have infants and children, and they're going to do a half-time practice and full-time mom, right? But some of in the systems and the strategies that I work with, they can have a bigger practice part-time than some guys slugging it out 6 and 7 days a week, right? So again, I think it's like, again, we just keep saying the same thing. It's, what do you want? Yeah. What does that mean to you? And listen, you said that person who went to 1,200, in 2 years. Yep. There's people who could go to 1,200 in 90 days if they want, because we have 7.5 billion people on this planet. Right. There is no shortage of people. Mm-hmm. There are a shortage of people who understand the value and the relevancy of chiropractic. Yeah. And that's where social media can kind of flip that for you and increase your practice like that, right? So fast you can, but if you're not prepared to handle massive amounts of new practice members, not just this beginning, but then the report, the retention strategies, all that to keep them in your practice. Because you and I know there's no more. It's not fun to open the door and they walk through and they go out the back door. Yeah, like that's stress.
Yes,
right?
Yes. So that leads to a lot of frustration.
No fun.
Yeah. Right? All right. So the next stage, $40,000 a month ish. Right. Now we're going from $500,000 a year to $1 million a year. And I think that this is probably the most common stage that quote-unquote successful offices sometimes get stuck at. What's the thing that you see that helps people really accelerate or break through any walls they're having there?
I think their focus really has to be on understanding business and getting coached around business, because chiropractic. You have probably incredible systems, but there's a different mindset, right? And there is a different way that you invest your time, your energy, and your money. Right. And so also who you spend time with, the 5 people you spend the most time with, you will probably have the same level of health, the same level of spirituality, the same level of financial ability. So almost always to go to the next level, you don't always have to leave other people behind, but you bring more people into your circle. You bring different people into your circle. You're exposed to other thoughts and other perspectives, right? So you up level, right? Like, have you ever stayed in a Four Seasons or a really the Mandarin here, right? Versus Motel 6, right? They're all hotels. They all let you sleep at night. But the quality level. So I think to keep going to $1 million, you just need to keep upgrading. Upgrading it all.
What's some of the best coaching that you've gotten on the business side of it, or books you've read that you really like?
I love a guy that's not in chiropractic, and his name is Dan Sullivan, Strategic Coach.
I was a Strategic Coach for 4 years,
Right. I love him. And I love his consistency, and I love his abilities, always be learning, and keep thinking about who. Right? Not how. Who. Who can help me? Who I know what I'm good at. I'm an ideal generator, and I breathe life into people, and I help them increase their confidence and courage, right? But who can do the other stuff that all needs to be done? Right. So I love him, and I just think that, again, this is the most amazing time listening to podcasts. On my Alexa morning, every morning I go, what's the news of the day? And Gary V's on there. Nice. Right? Because he's just fun and wild and right? And always ahead of the curve.
Always.
So I was early in my career, Tony Robbins was at a seminar that Guy Rickman put on. And it was very early in Tony Robbins' career. And I said, I got to know this guy. And I was at a seminar in his living room before he was famous.
Nice.
And so he's been a really fundamental, like understanding that level of self-communication and neuro-linguistic program. That's influenced me a lot. But I'm always like, what's the next book? What's the, just be like a sponge, right?
Sure.
And I think the big thing is all avenues, right? You look at art, you look at our science, but within chiropractic, business is not one of our strengths.
Right. Right.
How about you? What are your top 3 right now?
Strategic Coach. Were you in Strategic Coach, or you just like follow his content?
Yeah, I just followed his stuff. I just never did his thing.
Yeah,
though,
I liked it. I did it for 4 years.
Oh, you did?
The 4th year. So what I've found is the first 3 years are awesome. It's always new stuff because you go once a quarter, and then the 4th year, I felt like there started to be. It's kind of started in the 3rd year, but in the 4th year, I really felt like there was like. They were kind of repeating, like we were going over the same stuff, and it's like, all right, well, if I wanted to do that, I could like go back and like read the booklet that you gave me about that.
Right.
And so, but it really helped me to got me my first personal assistant, and it really got me to understand, because I have the same Colby score as Dan Sullivan, and so when I was always interested in like what it was that he was doing to run such a big organization, because he's kind of all over the place the way I get all over the place sometimes. And so that Strategic Coach was a big one for me. I do Stephen Franson's CEO program, Remarkable CEO, which I think is a great one. I think it's the most comprehensive business coaching for chiropractors, like to become like the CEO of your practice. And then Traction's always been a big one for me. I don't know if you've read that book before.
I haven't read that one.
I think you would really, if you like Strategic Coach, Dan Sullivan stuff, you would love Traction. That's where I learned about Traction. He's Gino Wickman was a Strategic Coach guy, and so they really like talk about it a lot in Strategic Coach, and it's a great like system it's like an operating system for your practice. And then Gary Vee is like the reason why I have a content marketing agency, so he's been a huge influence on me. Yeah,
and I think the bottom line is that there is so much available. Find what works for you, and sometimes long term works better for other people.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I've had clients that have been with me for 15 years, not because they don't know what they're doing or how to figure it out, but because we work on their brain all the time, right? That headspace. But I've had a virtual assistant. I probably was early in the game. I've had a virtual assistant before a personal assistant since 1999.
Yeah, that's
right.
Great. That's great. Yeah.
So, and then personal assistants, and
because you sound like me. Like you're probably more of a visionary than you are an integrator or an implementer, and you need implementers around you to get stuff done.
Right, because I'm
details.
Right.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, this is one of the biggest things. The more you want to grow, the bigger your vision, the more support you need, right?
Yep.
And so you need to hire the right people, put them in the right place, and don't do anything that you don't absolutely love and you're good at, right? You might love it and you might not be good at, and that's okay for like a hobby.
Yeah.
It's not okay if you want to make $1 million or more.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes sense.
And just remember, the same problems that you're going to have, you probably almost have more problems the smaller your practice is. That's true. Right?
Yeah. Because you have less help. Mm-hmm. It's like you're having to do 900 different things, and you might only be good at 4 of them, So I had way more problems when I was struggling in practice early on than I do now.
Right.
I mean, there are very few problems that I have in practice now. It's because we've kind of like experienced all the bad stuff. Like there's very few new problems. Right. You know what I mean? So
it's the same. Like I speak and coach all over the world, right? So everybody in chiropractic tends to have the same, challenges and questions. The practice members who come in, they have the same questions and challenges. Yeah. So get it together and prevent those. Yeah. Use systems that avoid those or answer them before they even ask them. Yeah. And boom, you're gone, right? Because they're like, you get me.
Right. Yeah. Race down the hall. There you go. So on the, they get to $1 million and they want to, basically just, even if they just want to stay above $1 million, But when they get to that $1 million level, and whether they want to grow or kind of they find a comfort level, 1.3 or 1.5, whatever it is, what is it that you think that they need to focus on, that they need to really like wrap their mind around or be focused or be doing or whatever you think?
I think you need to remember what got you there.
Yeah.
Because you know the story, right? Most people go, oh, I'm there. I don't need to do that anymore. Or I don't have to pay attention to that anymore.
Yeah.
And then they disintegrate, right?
Yeah.
So there's fundamentals for everything. I golf, I've run marathons, I played polo, I've climbed mountains, and everything like that has fundamentals that make you successful.
Yeah.
Same thing in practice. So make sure you're paying attention to your fundamentals and make sure you're taking really good care of yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes we don't have that. I don't know that I really believe in balance, right? Is there really any true thing as balance as much as what's most important to me? What am I going to put the most time, money, energy, and attention to? And the bigger you want your business to be, the more you have to take care of yourself, because we can get cognitive issues if we don't sleep well, if we're not taking care of ourselves. So take care of you, I would say. And that's probably not the number one recommendation that most people make.
I like that one though, because we tell our patients the same, we tell the moms the same thing, like who's going to take care of them if you don't take care of you? And it's the same way with your business. Like you're the head of the household. You better make sure that you're in good physical shape. Because I just did an interview with Randy Johns earlier today, and he had a $1.7 million clinic, and he had late stage cancer that they gave him 2 months to live at age 36. I mean, he had the world by the tail, and then out of nowhere, and
but
it
he
just
did.
right.
He thought he did.
He thought he did, right?
If you only look at certain factors, you think you have the world by the tail, but you don't.
Right.
And I know a guy that practices in Spain. Same thing.
Yeah.
Humongous practice. Cancer, almost died.
Yeah.
Got his act together.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I totally agree with that, because if you get to $1 million in a chiropractic practice, I feel like you've got most of the stuff figured out. You've got the fundamentals, you've got the systems, and it's right. Like at that stage, it's easy to start to get overly stressed, to not take care of yourself, and so that makes sense.
And the second thing that I would say about that is learn how to say no.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And no is a complete sentence.
Yeah.
You don't have to give an explanation. Or if you have trouble saying no, this is what I often recommend. I'm sorry, I just can't say yes right now.
Yeah.
Because the busier you are, the more money you make, the more people who are going to want things from you.
Yeah.
And you just don't want to disintegrate. You want to stay focused. You want to stay, if you can, not balanced, but passion, like focused on your passion and your purpose, right? I always talk about being purposely powerful, right? So like if I want to run a marathon, I do a different workout, right? Than if I'm going to climb a mountain, right? So just keep focusing on your own self-worth, right? Don't let the money be your identity.
Right.
If it was all taken away, would you be okay?
Yeah.
Right? And I often say that I recommend that you look at, if I was going to be dead 3 years from now, like hopefully not, but if I was, would I have any regrets? And how do I live my life? I kind of have regret management, right? So I say yes to what's important. I say no to what's not.
Yeah.
The second part of that is, what do I want people to say about me at my eulogy? My family, my friends, my profession, and am I operating today from that endpoint, right?
Right.
So, or I'm like, I'll get around to that when I have more time, right?
Yeah.
I'll be more involved or contribute more when I have more time.
Yeah.
No, right?
Yeah. I just lost something. What was I gonna say? Shoot. I hate
It's
it when I do
easy
that.
to do, right?
I do.
You
Like,
we
well,
ask
I
a
get.
question and we go,
Well, no. I'm usually pretty good about I'll catch something in the middle of what someone's saying, and then I just keep it in the back of my mind. But then I start listening a little too much, to the end part of it, and then I forget what I was going to say. But anyway.
Well, let me say something about that.
Yeah.
If you're a master, you're getting to 1 million takes mastery, right?
Yeah.
And a master is not always perfect.
Right.
But they figure it out, or they reverse, or they go, oh, I didn't get that piece or that part. Let me go back and fix that, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like you're going to be perfect, right? But you master everything you can, and where it wasn't perfect, you fix it.
That's right. Yeah. And I like, just for like content in general, like when you have those little like brain freezes or you mess up, it's like, it's not, no one cares. Like it's like you said, it's like like when we were talking about, it doesn't really matter. Like we're shooting this with iPhones, it doesn't matter. I have fancy lenses and cameras, but this is easier to travel with, and it's fine. Like no one's going to decide whether to listen to this podcast or not based on that I only have that camera as an iPhone 10 and that one's an iPhone 11.
Because it's all about the value.
Right.
Are you giving me what I need?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And so, like WIFM, what's in it for me?
Yep.
That's how you get to 1 million.
That's right.
You answer that for people.
Right.
What's in it for me?
Right. So you have coached people for a long time, and now you're starting to. It sounds like you're going online with that. Mm-hmm. So giving people some different options. So when people work with you one-on-one, the name of that coaching
I call it
product
the circle of power.
Yeah.
Because, my last name is Powers,
Works
right?
out, yeah.
And when I adjusted, and to this day, if I adjusted you, I'd say, and the power is on,
nice.
Right? I have powerful systems. Everything to me, and it comes from a force, not like, I'm going to take you over power, but from an internal power of kindness and generosity and value.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
So my circle of power is my one-on-one coaching.
Yeah.
Right now, I only have 3 openings. I say yes to the things I want and no to the things I don't.
Right.
And I love my life, and I keep that, in a limited circle.
Yeah.
So, I just
one-on-one work is tough, like it's like it's just like chiropractic. It's like at the end of the day, you've given so much as the doctor that it's like your energy has to be protected. I was like, maybe I could take on some consulting clients. I took on my first one, and I was just like, I enjoy, I've been doing it with him for a while, and I enjoy it, but I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this a lot. I don't want to do this this is the only one I'm going to do,
Well, and there were so many people who wanted to hire me, and I just don't feel like I have my ideal client, just like I have my ideal practice member, right? And not that I didn't want to give those people or help them something, but they weren't my ideal one-on-one.
Sure.
And that's why I created the Circle of Success membership.
Yeah.
So we interact, you get my information, I do a once a month Ask Me Anything Facebook Live, a Zoom thing, we coordinate it, and then a webinar. Because I have really, I don't want to, I know that my content works.
Right.
I know that my advice works, and I didn't want to limit or constrict, but I didn't want to keep taking on something
and
that I didn't want.
And not everybody needs to talk to the. I like to get the access.
Right.
Like me as a consumer,
right.
I like the access to whoever, because I may have a question that I just need that one answer to that one question, and it's all worth it, right? But other people are just they like the fact that they can do it at their own rate. They'll get all the things you would say to them one-on-one in this content. It's just it's much more scalable for you, so you can give it to them at a cheaper price, which allows you to open it up to people that maybe couldn't afford the one-on-one stuff. So it's just important to have that value ladder so that people can kind of meet you where they're at and where you want to meet them at.
Also, creating a community, because somebody else might have a brilliant idea or have experienced what you're experiencing. That can speak to that.
Again,
right?
None of your problems are original.
Right.
Everyone has had.
We are not alone.
That's right. You are not a special flower.
And we're not right.
With your problems, maybe in life you are. What was I going to say? I do think that chiropractors should take heed of that, though, because we're so focused on the one-on-one all the time. But it's just like with patients. The low back patient that just walked in, or the mom with the colicky baby that just walked in. It's probably not the first one that you've seen. They also do not usually have unique situations. It's like you've seen them a million times. If you can start to create programs with the tools that we have now, it's easy to deliver that information so that maybe they don't have to come in as much. So like instead of just somebody saying, no, I can't sign up for your care plan or get started, is there a step down that you could meet them at?
And I mean, just like I said, as a chiropractor, we can come in and out of chiropractic. We can have full-time practice, part-time practice, take a break from practice. You can move in and out of it. And so do our practice members, right? And to give them, like I think about the day you walk in my door, you are part of my chiropractic family.
Yeah.
You might be all in on a lifetime care, or you might just be here short term and you keep coming back.
Right.
But if I do not accept you as my chiropractic family and I don't support you on your journey, if I make you feel bad in any way, shape, or form, even if it's like I'm just thinking it, they know it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, here's the best for you, and then if that's not right for you at this time of your life, we'll work at this point, and then next time I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Because how many times have you had a new practice member who says, well, I went to another chiropractor and they're in the same town as you. Mm-hmm. Why didn't they go back?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So those are things you want to be aware of. Once they walk through your door, think of them always as your patient, but make it relevant and comfortable for them to choose how they want. I believe ethically we have to tell them what's the ideal care plan for them, but they have a right to choose what they want to do with their body. Yeah.
When we were doing a lot of spinal screenings, and I mean still, like when we do spinal screenings, we have the question on the forum, have you ever been to a chiropractor? If yes, when's the last time? And I mean, we get people, like tons of people that have been to chiropractors, and usually if it's been longer than 90 days since their last adjustment, if it's been within the last year that they've seen someone and they're local, at the end we'll say, well, this is normally where we would offer you blah blah blah, but since you have a chiropractor, I would just recommend going to them, talking to them about this problem. It's something they should be able to help with, and they'll be like, oh no, that's not my chiropractor, I just went to him one time, right? So how do you make that bridge to where you aren't the person that they just went to one time, and it's like what you're talking about, where they see you as that chiropractor, and it's usually meeting them where they're at, not making them feel bad about themselves, and continuing to communicate. And that's why the content is so important, because even if they leave, if they can still see your Facebook Lives, if they can still read your blog posts, if they can still get your emails, you stay more top of mind, so that when they have a headache, they don't ask their friend who they see, they're like, you're their chiropractor. They go back to you.
Well, and I think that open communication from the beginning, if you're a person who tells me, I just want to come here till I don't have headaches anymore, or until my back is better, or whatever they say, right? I just asked for an agreement. I said, that's great. And will you let me know when you feel like you've achieved your desired goal? Yeah. Because what I'd like to do is a closeout exam. So we have a comparison from your first exam to if it's 6 visits from now or 24 visits from now. When you've achieved your goal, we close things out. So the next time you come back, we have a baseline measurement. Yeah. Would that be okay? Yeah. And they say yes. And then I said, let's say you don't have to come back for a while, but you're now part of my chiropractic family. Is it okay if we check in on you every 90 days or so? Yeah. Right? We have events, we send so I'm asking permission. Yeah. Because I do believe
that's great.
They're my family in chiropractic. That's great. And they need what I have. They just might not feel the need for it at this moment in their life, but they will come back to me. And I think it's also important when somebody comes in and they have been to another chiropractor, find out why they left. Right. If they're a local person, find out why they left. Right?
Yeah, I mean, if their answer is they tried to force me into a $3,000 care plan, and then you try to sell them into a $3,000 care plan, I have a feeling it's probably not going to go the way you want it to.
Here's what I say. Yeah. I'm going to say that. I say, you know what? Without seeing your x-rays, so let's get your x-ray from him. I myself might think that's a good idea, but I won't know without really knowing what's going on in your body. Yeah. And I will tell you if I'm in alignment with their recommendations. Yeah. And then you could choose to go back to that original person. Yeah. I really feel that if we take care of people like we would our mother's brother's uncle's sister. Like my mother went to a chiropractor in Florida after she fell down the stairs and had a compression fracture. The guy was afraid to adjust her. And I worked in the, I'm a polo player. So horse people, rodeo people, I practice in Colorado. It's safe to adjust above and below a compression fracture, usually. You need to know that clinical stuff. So I said to my mom, you have to go somewhere else because he's not giving you the care you need. And I'm in Colorado and she's in Florida. She's like, well, I like him. Within 5 years, my mother was dead. And her, the compression fracture, all of the disintegration because of loss of motion in her spine, affects your brain, affects your organs. And I truly believe that she would have lived longer if she had seen a chiropractor who would have taken care of her, in my opinion, more appropriately.
Right.
So I tell people, I'm going to tell you what I would tell my mom, my dad, or whoever, and you choose, right? But I can't go to sleep at night if I don't tell you why.
I should probably clarify. I didn't mean that you should then not give them a $3,000 care plan. It's just that if you don't ask and you don't know that was an issue, you can't address it before you give them the care plan that you think that they need.
Right.
But if you know that was an issue, now all of a sudden it's just communication, you know. But I do love. I think that's the first I've ever heard of somebody basically asking for permission to follow up, to reactivate them every 90 days. I think that's so smart because it's they agreed to it, and they have to stay in congruence. They've got to be fine. They can't be mad at you when because you're part of the family now. So it's it makes sense that you would follow up with them, right? You care about them.
And that's why my systems work so well, because they're really based on love of the practice member, love of my practice, love of the profession, and only wanting to do what's good, right? And also a lot of experience, right? The chiropractor I am today was not who I was at the day I opened my doors, right? So we learn, we grow, hopefully you're paying attention, and you're adapting and you're pivoting as you need to, right?
That's great,
So,
anything else that you think the audience needs to? I think we've covered a lot, given a lot of good value on this one. So, anything that we missed out on?
I just want you to remember, who's ever listening, that you have the power. You have the power to influence people and how they make their decisions, right? And even if they say no to care, but they have the understanding, because no, it's not right at this time in my life, they'll be back, right? Or they'll feel good, or they'll pass that information on to other people, right? How many of us have had new people that sent us 10 new people, but they didn't convert to care, right? So remember, don't only identify yourself as a chiropractor, as a business owner, but identify yourself as an influencer. That your words, your content, your videos all have the ability to influence somebody's decisions and the quality of their life. And then, of course, what we do with our two hands, our heart and our anchored mind, boom, it's amazing. So go out there and love it, do it, and get help if you need it.
And turn the power on.
Turn the power on, baby.
That's right. Well, I appreciate you being on, and thank you so much. It's great to meet you, and we'll see you guys on the next one.